Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Nitai Gauranga, 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 Jayo Nitai Gauranga. Jayo Krishna Balaram, Jayo Krishna Balaram, Jayo Krishna Balaram, Jayo Krishna Balaram, Jayo Srila Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Srila Prabhupada, Jayo Srila Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ananya, so nice. Thank you. Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
Mataji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
Mataji.
Madhanvat
Anvi
Pranam.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
Mataji.
Madhanvat Pranam.
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
Pranam, Hare Krishna. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so welcome again, everyone. So let's start. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjan Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dinbandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namastite. Saptakancan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishbhanusite Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So welcome. Today is a very nice chapter and is the last chapter of the middle third of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12. Okay, so what is the name of chapter 10? Chapter 10, please.
Opulence of absolute.
Opulence of
Vibhuti
absolute.
Yoga.
Chapter 11.
The universal form.
Sardarshan Yoga. Universal form, the universal form.
Very nice. Chapter 8.
Attaining the Supreme, Bhagavad Prapti Yoga.
Akshara Brahma Yoga.
Very
Akshar
nice.
Brahma Yoga, sorry.
Same thing. And chapter 7.
Knowledge
Knowledge of the absolute.
Knowledge of the absolute.
Knowledge of that. Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Very nice. Okay, and then we come to our daily question, which only 1 or 2 people have been attempting. What are the 8 questions asked in chapter 8? What are the 8 questions asked in chapter 8? You can raise your hand. You answered yesterday, Prabhu, right? No? Maybe so. And anyone else? Only Kayur, Prabhuji? Every day I ask this question. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Ma, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Arjun is asking the question asked by Arjun to Lord Sri Krishna in the 8th chapter beginning. What is Brahma? What is the self? What are the fruitive activities? What are the fruitive activities?
3.
What are the demigods? What is the material manifestation?
Material nature, you mean? Okay. Material nature.
What is the material nature or material manifestation? Who is Adi Yagya and how he stays?
Where does he stay?
Where does he stay in the body?
That's
And
7.
finally, just a minute, Amma, just a minute.
No copying, no reading.
How can those who are engaged in your devotional service know you at the time of death?
Thank you very much. So, yes, Kunnu Kapoor, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
What is self? what is the material manifestation, and what is Brahman? 3 हो गए. और who are these demigods, and how does this Lord of Sacrifice lives in the body, and in which part it lives, and how can one know Krishna at the time of death,
One more.
and what is fruitive activities?
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, thank you. There's some technical words which you and Keyur Prabhu didn't say right, but that's fine. Manish Mishra Prabhu, yes.
Hare Krishna Ma.
Krishna.
Mataji, this what is Brahman, what is self, what are fruitive activities, who are the demigods, what is the material manifestation, who is the Lord of the sacrifice, and how does he live in the body, and where does he live in the body, and how can somebody remember you at the time of death?
That's 7. One more. You said 7. What is self?
What are fruitive activities? What are fruitive activities? Did I say that, Mataji?
Yes.
What is Brahman? What is self? What are fruitive activities? What is material manifestation?
Okay.
What are the demigods? And who is the Lord of sacrifice? And where does he live in the body? Where does he live in the body? And how can those engage in bhakti yoga can know you at the time of death?
Very nice.
Or devotion service can know you at the time of death.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
iPhone. Hare Krishna. iPhone.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Krishna.
Yeah. What is Brahman or spirit? What is self or adhyatma? And what are the fruitive activities? What are the demigods? That is Adi Deva. And what is the material nature? And who is the Lord of sacrifice or Adi Yagya? And where does he stay in the body? And how can one know you at the time of death? And what is yeah.
Thank you. At least some people are getting benefited from my repeated questioning. Thank you so much, all of you who answered. Okay, chapter 12 is called Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. Let's pay our obeisance to Shri Radha Govinda before we proceed. This is what we did yesterday, the universal form. Arjun requests Krishna to show his universal form. We discussed that what makes Arjun request Krishna now to request, to ask for the universal form. And Lord Krishna describes his universal form first, and Arjun gets the vision of the universal form. Then he shares the experience of the universal form, and then he also offers prayers. And he also asks a question to Krishna at this point, between 15 to 31 verse. What is the question that Arjun asked to Krishna after he's sharing his experience of the universal form? What is the question between this 15 to 31st verse? What is the question that Arjun asked? Yes. What is the question? You all have unmuted yourself.
Mataji, is it who can see this universal form?
No. Thank you for trying this. Yes. So what's the question asked? And by Arjun to Krishna in between this 15 to 31 verses. How many of you are reading Bhagavad Gita? Could you please raise your hands? How many of you are reading Bhagavad Gita on your own? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many of you, you can even raise your hand in your camera if you can't raise your hand on the Zoom. 10, 9 people. 10, okay, Rashmi Mataji. iPhone 11, Darshana 12. Then who else is reading Bhagavad Gita? No one else is reading Bhagavad Gita? Okay, thank you very much. You can lower your hands. How many of you have Bhagavad Gita? The hard copy in your house, Bhagavad Gita as it is. How many of you have it in your houses? You can even write to me in the chat if you don't know how to raise hand. So how many of you have Bhagavad Gita in your houses? Bhagavad Gita as it is. So a lot more people have it and a lot less people are reading it. Okay, you can lower your hands and ask question. How many of you want to read Bhagavad Gita? Are not reading yet. You're not reading it yet, but you have it, or you don't have it, but you have a desire to read it. If you are already reading Bhagavad Gita, please lower your hands. I need to see who are not reading, but want to read. The question is want to read, not are reading already. How many of you have a desire to read, but not reading right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Am I audible, Rupa Mataji? Please tell me, am I audible?
Yes, Mataji.
Kartik Prabhu. Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Yes. Okay, so so I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal number of people who actually want to read Bhagavad Gita, but may or may not have it, but are not reading it. Okay, thank you very much. What seems to be the blocker in reading Bhagavad Gita? If anyone wants to tell me, you can raise your hand. Keep your hand raised and I'll unmute you. What seems to be the blocker, the hesitation in reading Bhagavad Gita? If you think I can help you, just 10 seconds, okay? You have to start the chapter. Jigna Mataji. Yes, Mataji. What seems to be the blocker?
Ma'am, I had read Bhagavad Gita before attending these classes. So I could now relate, but with this, right now in these days, I don't get really time to read, but I keep the copy in front of me so that whenever you say, I can go through it. But I'm not, now I will read with the full understanding. Before that, which I had read the Gita, but I went through all the meaning of Sanskrit and that helped me a lot. But now
so the
when
blocker is no time. Okay, I got it, Mataji. Thank you. Rachna Mataji. Yes, Mataji. What seems to be the blocker in not being able to read but want to read? Okay, I'll keep moving. Kunnu Kapoor Mataji. Yes.
Yes, it is very difficult to understand, but after attending these classes, I think I can read it properly and understand Gita.
For me also, time is the problem, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Rachna Mataji.
Yes, time is the problem, Mataji. I don't have the copy also, but I have access to the e-copy, but I'm not getting time to read it.
Thank you. Jalpa Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. With me again, time is, a constraint time in the sense unable to manage somehow. I start reading it and then, I discontinue reading it, within a few days. And then again, there is a lapse of time. And then again, I start somehow, but then again, I discontinue. That is a difficult thing, how to manage it regularly.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. So what I can say is try to read at least one verse a day. At least one verse a day. One verse a day will take 5 minutes. Do you all have 5 minutes to give to Bhagavad Gita? 5 minutes in 24 hours of your day. Can you give 5 minutes to Bhagavad Gita? You can raise your hand if you can. Just 5 minutes in 24 hours. Every single day. Like we give time to eat, time to talk, time to watch TV, time to check our WhatsApp and Facebook and whatever. Can you give 5 minutes to give to Bhagavad Gita every day? Okay, thank you very much. So 5 minutes every day for one verse starting today. Is that okay? Every single day.
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes,
Thank you
Mataji.
very much. Thank you. At least do that. At least one verse, read it from full. You read the verse, read the meaning, read the translation, read the purport. Thank you. Okay, so you can lower your hands. Thank you. So Arjun asked question that who are you? I mean, he was not recognizing who was the one showing the universal form. So Krishna replied that I'm time, and that the nature of the time is to destroy everything. And Arjun offers prayers after understanding Krishna's inconceivable potencies, and then requests Krishna to show his 400 form and 200 form. And Krishna says that only pure bhakti is needed to see this form, not by Vedic sacrifices, not by charity, or not by philosophical knowledge can one see Krishna as he is. So that's where we ended the chapter, Bhaktyate Ananya Sakhya. And where we ended is where the chapter starts today. So today's chapter only Krishna is going to emphasize on pure devotional service and the importance of pure devotional service. So Arjun is again going to ask a question to Krishna. Krishna, what is better? Which worship is better? One who worship the impersonal Brahman feature of yours, or one who worship the personal form of yours? Which one is better? And then Krishna answers that question and then also describes the progressive stages of bhakti from being the best to the lowest, but they are progressive. And qualities that endear one to Krishna. Like one becomes very dear to Krishna if they have these qualities. This is the first verse. Arjuna Vacha, Evam Satata Yukta Ye Bhaktastvam Parupasyate Ye Chapi Aksharam Avyaktam Tesham Te Yoga Vittamaha. Arjun inquired, which is considered to be more perfect? Those who are properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So one who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested, and one who worship the Bhagwan feature of Krishna and engage in the loving devotional service. Which one is better? Which is considered to be more perfect? Okay, now the question I have for all of you is, the universal form of Krishna, is it more near to the personal feature of Krishna, or is it more near to the Brahman feature, the impersonal feature of Krishna? What is it more near to? The universal form that we discussed yesterday. What is it more near to?
Impersonal feature.
Impersonal feature.
Thank you. Is there anyone who thinks, thank you, is there anyone who thinks that it is more near to the personal feature of Krishna, the Vishwarupa, universal form? Okay, so no one is raising hands. So it is impersonal. So it is more near to the impersonal form because there is no form as such. It's a concept, right? So like that, so Arjun is now confused. And then why is Arjun asking this question now? Because Arjun already said that my illusion is over. I accept whatever you say. You are Param Brahman, you are Param Dhama. And you already showed the universal form. So what makes Arjun ask this question now? Whoever has read the chapter will be able to answer this question, including the co-host. Yes, what makes Arjun ask this question now? That which devotional service is better? Which is better? Which worship is better? I'm sorry. And Srila Prabhupada explains the difference between worship and devotion. Also, yes, what makes Arjun ask this question now? When he already said that he's already convinced of Krishna. Yes, Varun Malhotra Prabhu.
Actually, Arjun has seen the Vishwarup form just once, but he's been associated with Krishna, as he says in chapter 11 also, as a friend, as my person. I've sat and I've actually eaten with you, so do forgive me if I made any mistakes. So the question is that should I associate or remember you and worship you with devotion in the impersonal form, or should I kind of associate where I can relate to you more easily? Because if I'm in a body and you're in a body, so that is easier for me to relate. So I guess that confuse. He sees the impersonal form and he
Your voice is not there now.
gets scared to the personal. He says, "Please come back to your normal form." So I guess that must be the reason why he's still confused in his mind as to because he's seen
not
all
confused.
the.
No, he's not confused. He already said my illusion is over. He said that,
I mean,
right?
confusion was just a way. I mean, slip of the tongue, but it was just a way to kind of relate where he can probably, the ways in which he can give his devotion and love to the Lord, in which
Thank
form.
Thank
Hare
you very
Krishna,
much.
Mataji.
Yes, Karthik.
Yeah, actually, Arjuna is not an ordinary human being like us. Like he is already in the Jnana Yogi.
Already Jnana Yogi? I thought it was a Bhakti Yogi.
Yeah, like he's eligible to become a Jnana Yogi. Like he's already eligible to become a Jnana Yogi, who is because when he went to the Indraloka also, he controlled all his senses and he was able to control all the
Bhakti
senses.
Yoga includes Jnana Yoga. Like if you have 100 rupees, it includes 80 rupees, 60 rupees, 90 rupees, everything, right? So Bhakti Yoga it includes Karma Yoga, includes Jnana Yoga, includes Ashtanga Yoga. This is Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so it's not that he's eligible, it's already done. So if you see a person who is a doctor, you already know that this person has already gone through the school, already gone through the college, already gone through the training, right? Not that now they're eligible for training. Right, so it's like
yes, not that. Yeah, actually, what I came to say is like, since he's not like us, human being who cannot ask this question at all, because whether I can worship your impersonal form, for normally human being, it is not at all possible to ask this question. But at least he has an opportunity to ask whether I should go here or there, which one I should go.
Very nice. That's a very nice point. But what makes him ask this question is my question. And the answer is written in the purport. That's a very nice point. Thank you so much. Yes, Gaurav Govardhan Das Prabhu, what makes Arjun ask this question again?
Hare Krishna Mataji. I think it is related to the chapter 9, verse 31, when Krishna says to Arjuna that, O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes.
Did you read 12.1 purport?
Which purport, Mataji?
The purport of this verse that I'm showing in the screen. Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone who wants to give their opinion, please lower your hands. Anyone who has an evidence and has read the purport, please keep your hands raised. If you're here to share your opinion or experience, please lower your hands. Yes, Manish Mishra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah,
I think Mataji, as other Prabhuji was saying, that Arjuna was very attached to the personal form of Krishna. So, and yesterday he saw the impersonal form of Krishna, which is Vishwarupa. So Arjuna was just confirming his own position that what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? I'm myself confused that what should I which form should I be pleasing? Should I be pleasing your personal form or impersonal form? So he's
Very
just
nice.
clarifying his own position.
Very nice. That's the answer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
That's what
Hare
Prabhupada is writing. Hare Krishna. That's what Prabhupada is writing in the purport. That's the answer. You see, we are not the society of opinions. There's a difference. There's a difference between how Prabhupada has trained us to read and preach and how the world around us does things. Okay, so it's a difference. We are a society of evidences. Srila Prabhupada's International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and whosoever is a part of that or wants to be a part of that or is a well-wisher of that must know that what is the standard set by the Acharya. We cannot just bring our own mind and experience in discussing Bhagavad Gita. So just read. So Prabhupada writes there that Arjun is asking this question again because he's more attached to the personal feature. So he's just clarifying his position, that which one is my worship better? Because I just saw universal form and I did not get very much impressed by that in terms of a devotional service. So Krishna is going to answer the question. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yuktatmata Mataha. The blessed Lord said, he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be most perfect. So all the arguments of impersonal worship are put to rest. So there's so many impersonal societies, there's so many cults who actually propagate that Krishna has no form, there's no deity, just worship on energy. But if you ask them the reference, where is the reference? You're saying this and you're doing so much austerities and sitting this way, eating this way, and dressing this way, and doing stuff this way. Where is the reference of your worship? They can't, they fail there, and they're going to fail there because Krishna is giving this reference to us, that he whose mind is fixed on my personal form. So Krishna himself is saying, and a person who does not have a faith, the faith is very weak, cannot understand this. But if a person has a good faith that whatever Krishna says is correct, it's just a matter of me realizing it. I don't realize it, I don't accept it, but I still accept this statement to be correct. Okay, Krishna himself is saying that that person is considered to be most perfect by me. Krishna is saying, so engage in the personal feature, and then he's going to say that what is the practice of those who worship the impersonal or Brahma Jyoti. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. So Krishna has said this many times in Bhagavad Gita also. When we did Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita, there also he says, right, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Gyanvan Mam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So Bahunam Janmanam Ante means after many births and many deaths. Gyanvan Mam Prapadyante, one who is situated in Gyan or knowledge. Generally, who is a Gyan yogi is very happy with the concept that God is energy. Okay, they are meditating on the energy aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna says that person, Bahunam Janmanamante Gyanvan, one who is situated in the Gyan. What happens to that person? Mam Prapadyante. After many births and deaths, that person who is situated in knowledge ultimately surrenders unto me. And unto me, who is me? Vasudeva Sarvamati Samahatma Sudurlabha. That Krishna or Vasudev is all in all. And that particular soul is very rare. Pure devotional service is very rare. It's extremely rare. It's not so easy. And when we read, if it was so easy that there wouldn't be a need for 700 verses in Bhagavad Gita or 18,000 verses in Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or so many Upanishads or so many Chaitanya Chaitamrita or so many of the Sandarbhas that our Acharyas have given us. No, if it was so easy, it wouldn't be. But our mind minimizes because we have a habit of putting us in the center and not Krishna. So our mind minimizes the rarity of the devotional service. That is why we don't have time to do something which is very important. Kleshu adhika raste sham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukham dehavadhir avapyate. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So there is no progress in such. And what progress is Krishna talking about here? What progress Krishna is talking about is 3 levels of understanding. There are 3 levels to understand Bhagavad Gita. First level is that I am not the body, I am the soul. That's the first level. I am not the body. I am not this mind. I am not this intelligence. My real constitutional position is that I am the soul. That's first level. Second level of understanding Bhagavad Gita is that I am actually part and parcel of Krishna. I am the soul, but I'm actually part and parcel of Krishna. That's where I'm coming from. Not that I'm the soul and I become one with Krishna. No. Or I become merged in Krishna. No. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. For example, if there is a parent and they have children, the children are part and parcel of the body of the parent, right? Not that they become one with the parent. Does that happen? Like if you have children and they are part and parcel, or they become one with the parent? What is it?
Part and parcel. Part and parcel.
Very nice. So like that, I am part and parcel of Krishna, not like I become one. And the third level of understanding Bhagavad Gita is that because I am not the body, I'm the soul. Because I belong to Krishna, that's where my belonging is. So my duty is to engage in loving devotional service of Krishna. That is the progress. But a person who's very attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme, they cannot make this progress because they don't have a goal. How can you make a progress if you don't have a goal? You don't know where you're going. Let's say that let's say that you are, or I am going somewhere. Okay, I'm driving somewhere, or you're driving somewhere, and you don't have a map. You don't have a GPS. You don't have Google Maps on your phone. Nothing. You don't have a phone. No maps. But you're just like very sure that you're going to find the goal on your own. So you go on driving. So will that particular kind of a driving will lead me to my goal in a particular on a timely manner, or that driving where I set the destination, I get the directions, and then I start driving? Which particular driving is more congenial to reach the destination?
Second one. The second one with the guide.
Common sense, right? Second one.
The second one.
Thank you. So like that, Krishna consciousness is actually 99% common sense. We have to set a goal, and a person who is worshipping impersonal feature has no goal. There is no goal of engaging in devotional service. So Krishna himself is saying that worship is very, very difficult, glacial. It's full of difficulties. Okay, but then this is the validation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the worship of the Bhagwan feature, or the loving devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not Supreme Impersonality. Ye tu sarvani karmani maisanasya matparaha ananyene va yogena mam dhyayanta upasate tesham aham samudharta mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami nachirat partha maya veshita chetasam. For one who worships me, giving up all his activities onto me, being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, who has fixed his mind upon me, O son of Pritha, for him, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. This is so nice, right? Mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami nachirat partha mai aveshita chetasam. This is so nice. Krishna consciousness is the best thing that can happen to anyone. We all wait for best things to happen in our life, right? What is the best thing? If I ask around the class, what is the best thing that has happened to you in your class? What is the best thing? So somebody will say, the birth of my child, my course, or my job, or my wedding. People will say something like that. Yes, something like that. Or
yes.
Vrindavan Dham Darshan, or Mayapur, best thing happened. Something like that. Or a vacation to Switzerland. Right? Something like that will be there in everyone's life. What is the best thing? But actually, it is not the best thing. Best thing is Krishna consciousness, that this thing happened in my life. And I'm very grateful that Krishna came, because Krishna actually reminds us again and again that you have an eternal relationship with me. There is nothing eternal in this life other than the relationship with Krishna and Krishna's devotees. That is the only thing that is eternal. And he's reassuring it. If it was not eternal, then how can he deliver us from the ocean of birth and death? Is there any relationship in our life? Any? We have so many levels of relations in our life. As a parent, as a friend, as a spouse, or as a child, or as a colleague, or so many, we are wearing so many, what is called upadhis. So many upadhis, designations on our head. But is there any relationship? Now just think for like maybe 5 seconds, which can deliver you or me from the science of birth and death. Is there anything like that?
No.
No, Mataji.
No.
That was a very nice no.
No.
No. So just think, I'm trying to emphasize the importance of Krishna consciousness. Only Krishna says that I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So he delivers, he can deliver, and he wants to. Otherwise, why would he say that? He really wants us back. There is a book called Brihad Bhagavatamrita. In that book, there's a description of Krishna's friend who comes back to Krishna after being roaming around in the material world for time immemorial. And when he's going to come back, so Krishna, it's described that Krishna is on the other side of the gate and he's pacing up and down. Like he's very restless. He's waiting, pacing up and down, waiting for his friend. We do that, right? When we are restless, the time is not going. So he's pacing. And as soon as the door opens and the friend comes in, Krishna runs to hug his friend. Krishna runs. So Krishna has so many devotees, so many servants. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he still wants each one of us back. Each one of us, he wants to be available. I have no idea what other relation can be so pure. Nothing. Okay, so now we'll start. This is a very nice beginning from verse number 8 to verse number 12, I think. Now we start the progressive stages of devotion as stated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, beginning from the highest to the adjustments that he's going to make for us, which is the highest bhakti. Mai eva mana adhasta mai buddhim niveshaya nivashishyasi mai eva ata urdhvam na sanchayaha. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. So there is a saying, right, that we are where our mind is. Have you heard of that saying? It's not that we are where we are physically situated, but we are where our mind is, right? We heard of that saying?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, okay, so thank you for the validation. So we are where our mind is. So in that way, Krishna knows that you are going to be where your mind is, not where you are right now with your body. And so Krishna says, give it to me. And how do we give our mind to Krishna? By engaging our intelligence in Krishna. Okay, mind is looking for sense gratification. We are leading a very sense gratificatory or a life which is centered around my own senses. All of us, there is no exception. Only a pure devotee can live a life without the center of being sense gratification. The nature of the conditioned soul is that whenever and wherever we go, we first think, that is the nature of the conditioned soul, that what is it there in me for there? What is it there for me in this particular assembly? What is there for me here? Okay, that particular question itself means that I am not a pure devotee, because a pure devotee thinks, what is there for the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And if there is an inconvenient situation, then a conditioned soul tries to avoid that. Like I will try to avoid that condition, that place where there's going to be an inconvenience. But a pure devotee is going to pierce through the coverings of inconvenience and put Krishna there, like Srila Prabhupada did. Like Srila Prabhupada traveled across the sea, not to get a good job, or not to glorify his career, or was not trying to enhance his material condition, but to bring Krishna there. Right? He was asked that why have you come to the Western world? Then Prabhupada said, why not? Why not? I have to come, otherwise who is going to bring Krishna? So I came to bring Krishna. So that's a pure devotee. So how do we put our mind in Krishna? By engaging our intelligence in Krishna. And how do we engage our intelligence in Krishna? By working for Krishna, by thinking for Krishna, by chanting Hare Krishna. That's the beginning. Okay, but this is Ananya Bhakti. Ananya Bhakti, Ananya means there is no other, there is nothing else. Anya in Hindi means something else. Anya, right? Something else is there. But Ananya means there is nothing else. So there is nothing else in the heart of a devotee other than Krishna. How Krishna can be satisfied. This particular scene is described very nicely in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna is having lunch with his friends, and Krishna is sitting in the center, and all of his friends are sitting around him. And it is described that they all are looking, Krishna is looking like the center of a lotus flower, and all other Gopas are looking like the petals of the lotus flower, and they all are trying to please Krishna. And how do they please Krishna? They're sharing food. They all want to give to Krishna, and they all want to eat Krishna's food also. And it is written over there, I remember reading that each one of the Gopa is thinking, you see, Krishna is sitting in the center. Let's say that I'm sitting in the center and my friends are circling around me. So somebody will be able to see my face, somebody will be able to see my profile, somebody will be able to see my back, right? But over here, everyone, no matter where they're sitting, is able to see Krishna's lotus face. Everyone is able to see his face. So Krishna has this mystical opulence where he's not showing his back to anyone. We can't do that because Krishna wants to reciprocate like that. Krishna wants. I don't know how else to say it any better. But if anyone is actually waiting for us, we yearn for people who wait for us, right? When I go home to my parents, I am like always anticipating, oh, my mom will be waiting for me. She must have cooked so many nice dishes. My dad would have like brought this. So we do that, right? We anticipate that who's waiting for me, who's waiting for me. Is there anyone who's waiting for me? Right?
Yes.
So because that's a rasa, that's like a drama of a relationship in material world. That's like a mellow that a person derives, and that motivates a person to go for it. Even if one has to, take some difficulties in going, but they go because there is this mellow in that relationship which drives. So actually, and that mellow doesn't last that long. But if there is somebody who's really, really waiting for me, really, and that's Krishna. And why don't I train myself to also wait for Krishna? Anyway, I don't want to confuse or go further, but our method of worship is Vipralamba Bhav, like worshipping in separation. We're not trying to see Krishna. We're trying to serve Krishna. Okay, so understood, that's Ananya Bhakti, no Anya, there's nothing. And Ananya is also explained in many levels as we grow further in our discussions. So what is that verse which describes the pure devotional service? Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. So there also Anya word is used. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. Jnana Karma Adi Anavritam. Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. So there also, this is in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anya Abhilashita Shunya means there is no other desire. Shunya means zero, means empty, means void, nothing else other than what? And Jnana Karma and Adi Anavritam. Anavritam means one who doesn't stop us. So Jnana Karma Adi. So Jnana and Karma are allowed as long as they don't become an obstacle in worshipping Krishna. So Jnana Karma Adi, everything else. Anavritam. And then Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. So favorable bhakti. And there's a very sweet discussion about what is favorable bhakti. Is it a bhakti which pleases Krishna? Because if the bhakti means pleasing Krishna, then we have example of Hiranyakashipu, that Hiranyakashipu, Narasimha Dev is very pleased when he's like, bifurcating his chest and intestines and garlanding himself with everything. So is that bhakti? That where Narasimha Dev is pleased by Hiranyakashipu's killing Hiranyakashipu, he's pleased, but that's not bhakti. And then there's another one that Mother Yashoda, she's heating the pot of milk on the stove, and when it is over boiling, so she puts Krishna away to take that stove off the gas. And in that particular circumstance, Krishna is displeased. He's displeased. That's why he picks up a stone and breaks the pot of yogurt that his mother was turning into butter, and then steals the butter and feeds it to monkeys and makes a lot of mess because he's displeased that why my mother left me and went to get this milk off the stove. So is it bhakti? It must be bhakti, right? It's bhakti because Mother Yashoda is the Nitya Siddha Bhakta. She's all eternally liberated and worshipping. So what is Anukul Bhakti then? Is it pleasing or displeasing? No, that's not the definition. The definition is the intent. There is an intent to please Krishna. There is an intent. Okay, and then that kind of a bhakti is Uttama Bhakti, and that kind of a bhakti is Ananya Bhakti. Very, very difficult. We can only take shelter of such Nitya Siddha Bhaktas. But if someone can't do that, then because Krishna is not going to close his doors on us. Remember I said that he is the only person who's actually waiting for us only. Okay, it's actually the real person who's waiting is Krishna, but we try to look here, there, everywhere. Atha chittam samadhutam na sanknoshi mai sthiram abhyasa yoge na tato mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. My dear Arjun, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, you will develop a desire to attain me. Okay, so this is called sadhana bhakti, which is just near to Ananya Bhakti. So, so many people ask, why 16 rounds? You know, why 16 rounds? Because you can chant unlimited number of rounds. Why are we locking Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna up in minimum 16 rounds? I want to chant. And why on the beads? Why not fingers? Why not mind? You see, so many things are asked. But why not? Why? Because Krishna himself is saying that I am not on the platform of I'm not on the platform of pure devotional service. I am not accepted. Because if we accept it, half of the problem is already solved. There's a process to solve a problem. Okay, and the process is first to accept that there is a problem. And the problem is that I am not a pure devotee. So, but then I have a desire to become a pure devotee. So if you have a desire to become a pure devotee, then you have to follow a discipline towards that goal. Remember goal setting? So discipline towards that goal is then practice sadhana bhakti. Sadhana means discipline. For example, if somebody wants to become an army person, okay, now just having a desire or having going to gym regularly is enough to become an army person, or there is a discipline? Yes.
Discipline. There is a discipline. We follow discipline.
Right?
Rules.
A very strict discipline. A very strict discipline. They have to get up by 5:30, run 10 miles around the what is it called as park or whatever they have, and then eat a very strict diet, and then do so many regulations, study so many things, concentrate, and you have to live alone, away from the family. The training is so I have a friend, he's a IPS officer, Indian Police Services, and he was involved in that. He was actually the chief person who actually was there for that Fulan Devi encounter. So once he was talking to me, and he was explaining that how they arranged, how they planned, and I was like, oh my God, so difficult. So much discipline, right? So if we don't follow the discipline, then how can we actually achieve the goal? If the goal is Ananya Bhakti, then sadhana bhakti is the way to get there. And sadhana means discipline. And who gives us the discipline? Can my mind give me the discipline? That or is there supposed to be an authority who gives us a discipline?
Guru.
Authority.
Okay, very nice. So we are on the same page. Everyone is awake. So the authority or the acharyas or the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. There are three authorities: Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. If we do things according to their instructions, even though apparently they may look very uncomfortable, but we will always be under the safety zone. If I do something out of that Guru, Sadhu, Shastra cycle, then I am at risk. And generally, then if I'm not working according to Guru, Sadhu, Shastra principle, I am not stopping to work. I'm still working. And then I'm going to work according to my mental concoction. And then mental concoction creates havoc in life. Okay. So the acharyas have given us this discipline of chanting. That's a discipline. You're regulating yourself. They're going to chant minimum 16 rounds on the beads, follow 4 regulatory principles. You give a vow. In ISKCON, we don't get initiation if we don't give a vow. After initiation, if somebody breaks the vow, then that's their problem. But Guru has taken responsibility with that vow. But if someone cannot do that. If someone does that, then what happens? What is the result? See, Krishna talks like this: set a goal, follow a goal, and this is what you have to achieve out of this. That you will attain a desire or develop a desire to attain me. But if someone can't do that also, if someone can't do sadhana bhakti, then what? Then abhyasa api asamartho asi mat karma paramo bhava madartam api karmani kurvan siddhim avapyasi. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. See how much adjusting is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He adjusts his so much to run this relationship between me and him, or you and him. each one of us so much. There's so many adjustments needed to run a relationship, right? Anyone, any relation. My God, I have a teenager son. Don't ask me how many adjustments are going on in the house. Yes, you all have an experience that
Yes, Mataji.
all ladies.
Mother, every parent has
It's a common feature.
it's a very common experience of every parent.
I have a teenage daughter.
Very nice. So there's a teenage daughter with somebody. Okay, I fully empathize and sympathize with you. So here Krishna is adjusting. Okay, understand that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has innumerable number of devotees and innumerable number of servants, but he's adjusting for me. This is the personal instruction, personal letter to each one of us. He's adjusting that if you cannot do that, that's okay. Don't get discouraged. But you work for me. And if you work for me, then you will come to the perfect stage. So this is Nishkam Karma Yoga. That work for me and give the fruits of your work to me. So work, and then whatever you earn, give a part of it to me. So this is from another chapter. Yat karoshi, yat ashnashi, yat juhoshi, dadasi, yat tapasyasi kantaya, tat purushva madarpanam. So Krishna is again emphasizing. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. If someone can't do that also. Athedadapiya sakto ashi kartu madyogamashitaha sarva karma phalam tyagam tadha kuru yatatmavan. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness, then try to act giving up the results of your work and try to be self-situated. So try to act giving up the results of your work. So not this is called Sakam Karma. There's no yoga here. Why? Because this is like becoming a big philanthropist. Like there's so many people who have so many riches, and then they open the hospital, they open the orphanages, they open the free schools for underserved, right? So that's what he's talking about. So it's not necessarily giving up the results for Krishna, but just giving up the results for some cause, which is that I gave example. And then what happens is that the person becomes, the heart becomes pure. Not pure, the heart becomes soft. Person who is very attached to whatever they earn or whatever assets they have in life, their heart is very hard. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, my Guru Maharaj taught us this. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada used to say this, that Grihasthas, should they give charity or not? This was a question asked to Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. This is Prabhupada's Guru. So he said, any Grihastha, because Grihastha means person who is dealing with the money matters, right? Because there is a family to be run. So there's got to be some artha. So if that person is not giving charity, in any fashion, that person's heart is very, very hard. It's very hard. And how can you put Krishna in something which is very, very hard? So it actually softens the heart. The person becomes, tries to be self-situated, becomes ready to acquire the transcendental knowledge. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj jnana dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma phala tyagaj shantir anantaram. If you cannot take to this practice, now this practice refers to Nishkam Karma Yoga, not the previous verse. This practice over here does not refer to the charitable disposition of philanthropic work or altruistic work. This practice means if you cannot take to the practice of Nishkam Karma Yoga or working for Krishna, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of fruits of action, for by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. Okay, if you can't do Nishkam Karma Yoga, then try to cultivate the transcendental knowledge, not that the knowledge of ABC in the school or college. But better than knowledge is dhyana or meditation, because meditation involves some activity. You know, you have to sit in a certain manner, you have to sit in a certain place, breathe in a certain manner, look in a certain manner, and draw your senses in a certain manner. So there's some activity going on. Dhyana, you're just reading. So better than jnana is dhyana. I'm sorry, but better than dhyana is to give the fruits of one's activity. I think we all know this story, right? The fruit vendor who was selling the fruits, and Krishna was a baby and he wanted to get the fruits. And he had seen in his house that There was no paper money exchange at that time. There was an exchange of the food grains. So he had seen his parents do the exchange of food grains for something that they wanted to buy. So he brought 2 palm full of the grains to exchange with this lady who was selling the fruits. And his hands were so small that actually most of the grains actually fell off. But whatever grains he had, he offered to this lady, and he wanted the fruits. The lady was so mesmerized by his beauty, and she had so much of affection for Krishna. She actually emptied her basket and gave everything just for those little food grains that Krishna brought. And she was so happy in giving Krishna whatever he wanted. And in return, Krishna filled her basket with valuable jewels, and she's not even paying attention. It's so nice. The one who gets Krishna actually gets everything, material or spiritual. There's no loss. The loss is that I got a chance and I didn't become Krishna conscious. That's a biggest loss. We have so many losses, so many gross and ambiguous losses in our life. But if we have to actually grade our losses, then the biggest loss is that I got a human form of life and I did not try to become Krishna conscious. That's the biggest loss. So one who is not envious. And now Krishna is going to start talking about the qualities that endear him. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities. All, not just humans, all living entities. Who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego. Who is equal in both happiness and distress. Who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-control, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. This is Sanatana Goswami. So Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami were very rich. They were actually at the post of the prime minister in a Nawab's cabinet. But they were so attracted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement that they were able to give it up. So they had no sense of proprietorship, and they were so dear to, even though they're so detached and living a life of renunciation and very busy in giving us all the scriptures and rediscovering Vrindavan. But the local people, the local grahasthas who were living in the village of Vrindavan or wherever they went, were so attached to the Goswamis that whenever they had their personal problem, they would just go to the Goswamis with the problem, and whatever verdict they will give, the people will accept. So pious, right? India is such a pious land. He for whom no one is put into difficulty, no one, and who is not disturbed by anxiety. This should be disturbed. Okay, I'm sorry. One who is steady in happiness and distress is very dear to me. So if the goal of my life is to become dear to Krishna, then I must check that am I having these qualities or not? Because the goal of my life is not to become dear to my own mind. I'm trying to become dear to someone. Okay, we are all trying to. Let's be honest here. I'm trying to. Otherwise, why are we trying to run our family in a particular fashion? Because it gives me satisfaction that there is such a working relationship with children, with so many other people in the family, right? So that way we are trying to become dear to someone. Oh, this particular person, let's say, oh, my son will sometime think, oh, my mother is so nice. So that means there is a desire that I want to be dear to my son, like that. But Krishna, if you want to become dear to Krishna, then keep a check. Krishna is giving it. Keep a check that am I having these qualities or not? And if I'm not trying to become dear to Krishna, then I'm trying to become dear to the dictates of my mind and senses. That's very, very clear. There is no doubt about it. So in the beginning of the course, I did say, I don't know how many of you remember, that Bhagavad Gita helps us to solve all problems of our lives, all of them. It's not that it's going to give a solution to all, but it gives a principle. There's a principle in solving a problem. And the principle is given in this chapter in a very thorough manner, that how to solve a problem of life. The problem of life is that I'm trying to get out of a situation and put myself in a separate situation, and then when I get there, then I want to get out of that situation also and put myself in another situation. So that means I'm always in anxiety and always disturbed, and I'm not steady. So there's something which I like, something which I don't like, but that is not making me dear to Krishna. Okay, so what makes dear to Krishna? There is a prayer by Brahma in 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. Tate anukampa shishumiksha mano bhunjan evatma kritam vipakam ridvag viprabhi vidadam namaste jivetayu mukti pade sadaya bhak. So person who is faced with reverses in life, how do they pray to Krishna? Krishna, I was supposed to suffer so much more. What credibility do I have to enjoy anything in this world? What is my credibility? But I was supposed to suffer so much more. But because of you, I'm getting just a sample of the suffering, just a sample. Okay, whoever is chanting Hare Krishna in whatever condition of life, believe me, because I'm talking and the verdict and the evidences and the references are giving in the Shastras that the suffering is minimized. If you stop chanting, stop associating, or do the aparadh of insulting other devotees, which is the very dangerous offense, then it is going to go away. Okay, so this is from fourth canto. Is it fourth canto or sixth canto? I think it's sixth canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, where Mother Sati, Lord Shiva was giving the discourse about Krishna to Mother Sati. Okay, and then because Lord Shiva is the biggest Vaishnava, so he was speaking, and then because Lord Shiva is a pure Vaishnava and he was talking about Krishna, all the pure devotees came. Narad Muni came, Vyasdev came, so many pure devotees came. But the thing is that Mother Sati was sitting in the lap of her husband. And these pure devotees, they did, no one really took a notice of it. No one really made a big deal out of it. No, and because they were so engrossed in Krishna's pastimes. And there's this person called Chitraketu. He was flying by in his plane and he saw what's happening and he smiled. He actually smiled because there was so nice assembly and he was feeling happy that this course is going on about Krishna and Lord Shiva is speaking and everyone is listening. But Mother Sati took an offense. She thought he's smiling because I'm sitting in the lap of my husband. So she cursed him to become an asura. She cursed him, so he became a Vritasura. And so in the body of an asura also, he could have actually reverted Mother Sati's offense, curse, I'm sorry. He could have reversed the curse given by Mother Sati, but he accepted because he said that I was supposed to suffer so much more. This is a very little suffering, and that too is coming from Krishna, from a devotee. So but in the body of Vritasura also, he was a demon, Asura, but he also remembered the pure devotional service to Krishna. And he actually gave instructions to Indra about how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Indra was also astonished that how can an Asura be a pure devotee? So, but he never regretted that Mother Sati made me a demon. Never. Okay, so who is more dear to Krishna now? A devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and who does not strive for some result is very dear to me. So I'm reading it, but I'm also not free from all these things. But this is the goal of my life. If I want to become dear to Krishna, then this is the quality I want to have, so I can offer this quality to Krishna. That there's no dependence on the ordinary course of activities. The ordinary course of activities means that the activities of daily living, the body gets tired, body gets hungry, body wants some recreation or some need of friendship, some need of talk. Yes, they're there. Yes, but then that particular person will be able to see that I am there as a part of Krishna too. So all these things are there, but I actually belong to Krishna. So not affected, is not dependent that, okay, if I get a good house, then only I'll be able to chant Hare Krishna. Okay, if this particular disease is cured, then my chanting Hare Krishna will be so much better. Okay, if I get this particular job, then my chanting will be better. So that's ordinary course of activities. It is not dependent. So whatever position Krishna has placed, I am thankful for the position because I'm able to chant Hare Krishna. That's that particular person is very dear to Krishna. And the example is Prahlad Maharaj. I had a god brother. He passed away in July in UK. So he was such a nice Brahmachari. Actually, I should show his TED talk to all of you. he had cancer and such a degree of cancer that the suffering was so much. But we met him like 3 days before his death. We met him, all of us, and he was, we were listening. He wasn't able to talk because of the weakness. But my spiritual master was telling that how Janakinath has actually endorsed the suffering and have become more and more Krishna conscious. You really got to meet such devotees. Okay, because my talking is not going to do justice, but you really got to meet and hear, and that actually gives you a totally different perspective of life, totally different perspective of Krishna consciousness. There was a Prabhupada disciple, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, with a sannyasi. So Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj had malignant melanoma. Okay, the cancer, which and such a degree of it that it had actually metastasized to all over. So there was no way that the body could be saved anymore. So he was in the hospice care. So when he was in the hospice care, he wrote a book. The book is called Die Before Dying. So Die Before Dying means he wrote that what are the things that what are the anarthas that one has to actually die from before they actually leave the body, finally for death. So Die Before Dying. And I read a part of the book, but it's very powerful. So one who neither grasps pleasure or grief, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things is very dear to me. Very nice, right? This is so such a revolutionary statement. Who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, because both are binding. Pious and impious are both binding in the sense that I stay in the material world. So I do it because I got to do it. Prabhupada gives example in 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse 13, that Matra Sparshas Kantaya verse. Srila Prabhupada gives example of a woman who is cooking in the kitchen for the family. So he says in that particular purport that in India, in the month of June, July, is very hot, very, very hot. But the lady of the house still doesn't hesitate to cook, ignite fire, and in such a hot temperature, she doesn't hesitate to cook for the whole family. So that is the level of the tolerance that Prabhupada gives example. Not like, okay, turn on the fan and turn on the air conditioner. He wasn't talking like that. He was talking from when he was a child, or when I was, or maybe most of you were children and we didn't have those facilities so easily. So such a hot weather, but the lady will still not hesitate. She will tolerate because she knows that this is her duty. So whatever auspicious or inauspicious things come, they come and then they go. But you see, again, I am talking this, but I am not realized. But I know that the way to get realized is to associate with devotees, because devotees can uplift us. Okay, once I had a desire of eating pizza from a particular shop. When I was many years ago, one of my friends, she took me to this place and we had the pizza. It was a very thick base. So I was telling my friend in the temple that, oh, I want to eat that pizza. I'm craving. So the next thing I know is that they go to the kitchen. They didn't tell me. They go to the kitchen and they make a pizza. They offer to the deities and then they bring it to me. So see how uplifting it is, that I had a desire to go and do sense gratification. But because I was in the association of devotees, I was protected. Otherwise, I would have gone and spent money and ate something which was not offered to Krishna. And again, my consciousness would have become contaminated. So devotees protect us. One who is equal to friends and enemies. Equal, huh? If you have one chocolate, you have to share it with both enemy and friend. Ask a second grader how difficult it is. Very difficult. Who is equipoise in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contamination, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and engaged in devotional service is very dear to me. So these all things happen if one is sincerely engaged in devotional service in the association of devotees, because in the association of devotees, all the elements that are needed to conduct devotional service or make a progress in Krishna consciousness are there. Everything is there. He who follows this imperishable path of devotion. Oh, by the way, do you all know this story? I'm sorry, I missed it. Do you all know this story of Amrish Maharaj? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone knows it. Okay. So, okay, so this is Amrish Maharaj who was actually insulted, and the mistake was not so big also. Actually, there was no mistake, but Durvasa Muni wanted to, make it as a mistake, but he was still equipoised and did not waver. So he who follows this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engages himself with faith. So faith is a biggest ingredient in the recipe of devotional service. Making me the supreme goal is very, very dear to me. So here he says very, very dear, superlative. So he who follows this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engages himself with faith, making me the supreme goal, is very, very dear to me. And this is Bilva Mangal Thakur. Srila Prabhupada talks about Bilva Mangal Thakur. So Bilva Mangal Thakur, in his previous life, was in the Bhava Bhakti stage, but somehow he fell down and got another birth in a very nice family, Brahmin family, rich family. But somehow he was attached to his prostitute girlfriend. I think her name was Chandrika. I think it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So what happened? So he would go and meet her every day. So what happened one day, it was a very heavy storm, very, very heavy storm, and the rivers were overflooding, the trees were falling, the wind was like at a very high speed, and the circumstances, basically there was a weather warning. And in this case of a weather warning, if you have a basement in your house, and then the weather warning says go to the basement, don't even live in your house, just go and hide yourself in the basement. If the basement doesn't get flooded with water, that's different. Anyhow, so it was a very, very bad weather. Chandrika, she thought that tonight Bilva Mangal is not coming because it's such a bad weather. So she turned off the lamp, closed the door, and went to sleep. And after some time, there was a knock on the door. So she went to open the door and she saw Bilva Mangal there. That time he was Bilva Mangal. So she was astonished that she asked, how did you get here? So he explained that how he performed hurriedly the Shraddha ceremony of his father, how he then ran, and he was running in the jungle, and when he was running, the trees were falling. You know how in movies, like you're running and behind you the trees fall, and how he grabbed one dead body to swim across the flooding river, how he grabbed the tail of a snake, using it as a rope to climb the to climb the wall, the high wall of her house, and how he came with so much of endeavor just to meet her. So she was so astonished, and she said, oh my God, you took so much effort to meet me. So if you had made such an effort to meet Krishna, oh, your life would have been so nice. So she said it, and he immediately changed. He immediately realized that what has he been doing of making such intense endeavors just for the satisfaction of the senses, which actually never get satisfied. So he immediately changed his heart. Immediately there was a change of heart. Now this doesn't happen for a material reason. Okay, the verdict is that he was in the Bhava Bhakti platform, right? So he had a spiritual master in the previous life. So his spiritual master, once we accept a spiritual master and the spiritual master accepts us, it's a mutual acceptance. Then spiritual master takes a responsibility of taking a disciple back to Krishna. And as long as the disciple doesn't go back, spiritual master also does not go back. So your spiritual master was talking through his girlfriend, and that is why the message was so potent. Okay, the purity, the force is the purity. It's a purity of a person that actually attracts. Why are we so attracted to Srila Prabhupada? Because there's no difference between what he said and what he lived. But for a conditioned soul, there's a lot of difference for what we tell others to do and what we do ourselves. So because his spiritual master was talking to Chandrika, so he had immediate change of heart. He immediately started for Vrindavan. And when he was walking, so you see, when we turn off a fan in our house, it just doesn't turn off immediately. There's a momentum, right? You just let's say you have a ceiling fan and you turn it off. It takes some time to turn off. It slows down a little bit, then a little bit more slow down, and a little bit more slow down, and then it stops, right? Right or wrong? Slowing of the fan on the ceiling of your house.
Right.
So like that, when he was going to Vrindavan, he there was a beautiful lady and he got attracted to her now. So now he started following her. So and this lady was married. And there are three kinds of women, right? Prabhupada describes three kinds of women. There are many kinds of men also, he says, but three kinds of women, one kind of a woman. So she was a very chaste woman. So it's not possible to actually attract a chaste woman. Because chastity is a force. Cannot. So he was following, and then she was running towards her house. So when she was running towards her house, her husband was sitting on the outside of the house. So she just, zoomed inside her house. She ran inside the house. And Bilva Mangala was standing outside the house and just like waiting like this. So this person, the husband, came and spoke to this Bilva Mangala and said that he was dressed in saintly clothes. So he said that, is there anything that I can do to serve you? He was so humble and nice. He said, yes, I want to talk to that lady who went inside. So he said, okay, sure, I'm going to get my wife. That's my wife. So he went inside and spoke to his wife, and the wife was so chaste. The husband said, go talk to this person. She went outside and she stood in front of him. And that time, Bilva Mangala told that lady, mother, he addressed her as mother at that time, said, mother, do you have a hairpin? Some ladies who have long hair, they put hairpins. So she said, yes. Said, okay, can you give it to me? So, okay. So she gave the hairpin to Bilva Mangala. So Bilva Mangala said, I was on my way to become purified, to become fully Krishna conscious. Right? I was on my way for that. But because of my uncontrolled senses, I was again getting distracted to something which was not in alignment with my goal. So and it is because of these eyes. So he took the pin and he actually pierced his eyes and became blind. Now we cannot do that. Okay, don't try that, please. This is just acharya. This is an acharya. So he said, because of these eyes, I got attracted to something other than Krishna. So there is no point of having these eyes. That is the determination. Again, I'm saying Srila Prabhupada has not said any one of us to do this. It will be an offense if we try it at home. This is just from the Shastras to give us an example that even if somebody raises up to the Bhava Bhakti platform, there are still some anarthas in the heart. And only by sincere prayer to the Parampara, to Srila Prabhupada, to Krishna, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, can we be helped, not by trying to solve our own problem by our own self. Then he went to Vrindavan. Then he started his Krishna consciousness wherever he was left. Then he was actually offering so loving prayers to Krishna that Krishna was actually coming every day to sit and hear it out from him. So nice, right? So this is what we did today. Bhakti over impersonalism. Which worship is better, personal or impersonal? And Krishna says personal. This is discussed between Krishna and Arjun between verse 1 and 7. Mai aveshya mano ye mam. Then progressive stages of devotion from Ananya Bhakti. If somebody can't do Ananya Bhakti, then do Sadhana Bhakti. If somebody can't do Sadhana Bhakti, then do Nishkam Karma Yoga. If somebody can't do Nishkam Karma Yoga, then do Sakam Karma. If somebody can't do Sakam Karma, then do Jnana. Okay, if you cannot cultivate, but better than cultivation of Jnana is Dhyana, Dhyan Yoga. Or if somebody can't do Dhyan, then then give up the fruits of activities, because that renunciation is better. So Krishna has adjusted so much for us. So will you chant Hare Krishna? That's one thing that you can give to Krishna. Will you all chant Hare Krishna for Krishna?
Yes, Mataji. Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you so much. So now I have an appeal to make on behalf of, so we can all work for Krishna in some way or the other. Okay, so this is on, where is it? 1 second. You see, we all can work for Krishna. Actually, when we work for Krishna, we become attached to Krishna. So, if you have offered something to Krishna, that offering gives us a memory of Krishna all the time. I remember when I was in Mangalore, outside Udupi Krishna, I used to go to Udupi Krishna some Sundays, because he's very sweet, right? Whenever I go to India, I make it a point to go to him still. So I bought a garland outside the temple. I remember And the person who was selling me the garland was so sincere. He said, actually, we don't offer outside garlands to Udupi Krishna, but you take it. Maybe, there's no harm in offering it from outside also, but they won't give it to the deity to actually make him wear. I said, okay, that's fine. I'll still take it. So I took it and I gave it. And if you have been to Udupi Krishna, there's like this area of circumambulation, and then there are windows everywhere, right? Have you ever been to Udupi Krishna? There are windows on every nook and corner, so you can anywhere peep inside and look at the deity,
No, Mataji.
right?
No, Mataji.
Rupa Mataji, have you been there?
Yes, Mataji.
Right, so that the main temple, there's and it's dark, and they don't use any power. They use the diyas, right? The ghee lamps everywhere. So many hundreds of ghee lamps are burning all the time, but no artificial electricity is used there. So I was going, and I was like, oh Krishna, I wish I was thinking like this. Udupi Krishna can wear this garland. It would be so nice. It's all jasmine and roses, and he will enjoy the fragrance and all that. So anyway, so the afternoon aarti started, and I was standing, and then they brought the deity out. No, that was sometime else. No, they didn't bring the deity out. So we were like peeping inside, and I saw that Udupi Krishna was wearing the garland I gave. You could make out, right? Otherwise, he only wears Tulsi garland. So, and I was so happy, and I still remember it. So that actually made me attached to him, even though it's his own thing. But I was immature, but still I have a memory. So that way, you can all become attached to Radha Govinda. Right? See, Radha Govinda really doesn't need anything. I'm honestly, sincerely saying, they really don't need anything, because they are the one who actually can give something to all of us. But if we bring something to them, we become attached to them. There's an attachment. So I think most of you know about our land. We got Radha Govinda don't have a temple yet. They've been living in a rented house for over 2 decades in Mangalore. But finally, we have bought a land. It's a very beautiful area in the outskirts of Mangalore with road on 3 sides. Prabhu was showing me the video one day of the land. So this is a very beautiful land. We just acquired the land from the government, and we would like to start the construction for Radha Govinda. And ISKCON temples are based on the principle that there's got to be an educational institute. Yes, there is Archana Mark. Yes, there is deity worship and all the rules and regulations. But then the biggest part of Prabhupada's movement is educating people on the science of Krishna consciousness. How many of you think that this kind of an education is a dire need of the society in present time? How many of you think that?
Yes.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes, very much
Urgent
needed.
need. It's an urgent need. Not
Urgent
very
need.
much, but it's an urgent need.
Yeah.
There is
Urgent
no
and immediate need. Thank you.
Children
Yes.
are losing Sanskriti of India.
Yes, and then adults too. Yes, Mataji, very nice. So the biggest part of our temple is that any ISKCON temple for that matter, and specifically for Radha Govinda temple that I am involved with, I can vow that the biggest element of the temple is that how can we actually propagate Krishna consciousness. So there are going to be like classrooms for all our age groups across the whole world, running courses where everyone can come and join and become Krishna conscious. And there's going to be a facility where people can live. So they don't really have to get out of the temple at all. You can live there, you can learn there, you can dance there, you can eat there. Oh my God, what attracted me to Mangalore temple was, there used to be a Prabhu in our temple who actually used to make 8 kinds of rice dishes. 8. Every time on Sunday feast, there was 8 kinds of rice dishes. So, my God, that used to be an attractive force to go to temple. Prasadam. How many of you can relate to it? That prasadam is an attractive feature of a temple.
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
There is no doubt. There is no doubt.
Yes. So like that, so like that, we can all do that in Mangalore. So I will come, you also come, and we will all be there. So this is Navanishta Prabhu, Sridhar Prabhu. This is Navanishta Prabhu's father. This is Shobha Mai. And I know all of them. Shiva Prasad Prabhu. So So we all are involved, and you are too, in making this temple. So I have a plea that we can sponsor something for Radha Govinda. Again, if we do it, then actually you feel it. I don't know how to share the feeling. If somebody can't give the money, then they can give their time and talent. There are different ways of serving Krishna, whatever ability we have, but don't hesitate or hold back from serving. And if somebody cannot give the time and talent, then they can give the Lakshmi. So in either way, and you can contact me directly. I will share the sponsorship links and my email and Amanush Prabhu's email for any question, especially the foreign donations, which I usually assist in. So we can sponsor 1 brick for the temple, and 1 brick is like 1,500 rupees, or 2 bricks is 3,000, 5 bricks, like that. This is a proposed amount. You can change the amount when you give the donation. If somebody has a little more to give to Krishna, then you can give a little more. You can give a square foot. And if somebody has a little more, then you can become a life member. Life membership is a unique feature of started by Srila Prabhupada for ISKCON. So one can become a life member, and as a life member, you will receive a life membership card. I have mine. And with card, all your dependents are included. Your children, your parents are included in one card. And this card is honored at all major ISKCON centers, wherever there is a guest house facility across the globe. So we get 3 days free accommodation in across the world ISKCON centers for 3 days a year. Yes, they do charge a little amount for the cleaning services, but for the stay, it's not charged. So let's say you go to Paris and you live in the temple there, it's covered. Or you go to London, or you go to Australia, or wherever. So accommodation, and then you also get an entire set of Srimad Bhagavatam and all the books written by Srila Prabhupada, and also a japa bag and japa bead for you. And also every on the birthday occasions of the life member, there is a service to the deities offered. So the proposed amount is 35,555 rupees, and this can be paid in one setting, or this can be paid in installments over 1 year with no interest. And if somebody has more, then someone can do dharma karta seva, where someone can give 1,08,000 rupees for the construction of the temple, and in that particular devotee will get a free life membership, and then also will get the pass for the important functions, and also get to participate in Pratisthapana Yagna for the temple. This amount can be paid over 3 years with no interest. And if somebody has more, then they can do Dharmadhikari Seva, where 2,70,000 rupees with same benefits like free membership. The name will be embedded on the wall of spiritual fame, and invitation for Pratisthapana Yagna, and VIP pass for the functions. Somebody can have more, you can do more. Mukhya Dharmadhikari Seva. Okay, it's our Mahamukhya Dharmadhikari Seva, which is 10,80,000 rupees. So I will share all these links today. And if somebody doesn't have that much and they want to do just 1 day seva, like 1 day offering of dhupa or flowers or bhoga, Raj Bhog, they can do that too. Okay, so or monthly seva, or one-time seva, all these things are there. There's nothing big or small in front of Krishna, and don't hesitate for giving maybe like 5 rupees. Imagine if 5 lakh people give 5 rupees to Krishna, it becomes so much that we can actually start the construction of the temple. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can email me or Amanush Prabhu, and we'll be very happy to assist you with this. I have a very nice video to